Hello, and thanks for joining me. Well, what you saw in that last scene was Mr. Whoopi's auto retract threading tool. Very well made device, works outstanding. Highly recommended. If you're interested in one, I'll put the contact information in the description down below. Be sure and contact them. What we're going to do today is build a hard stop for my mill. Not one hard stop, but like 2 or 3 or however many you want. Instead of, if I have to drill 4 or 5 holes, instead of positioning on my DRO at each increment, I can just go to a hard stop. Years ago, many years ago, when I was about 19 or 20 maybe, I took a cabinet making class, and the teacher used this system. He called them a storyboard, and basically it was a stick, usually about 8 foot long, and he'd put it in the corner. He'd go to a house he was going to build cabinets in. He'd put that in the corner of the room, and he'd say, okay, here's a doorway here. Here's where we want the edge of the cabinet. And he'd have one for vertical and horizontal. And he made it work pretty good. I never really got real good at cabinet making. But that gave me an idea on how to make these stops here. Let me show you what I'm going to do. Some of you may remember when I put these DROs on, I put them on the front. Kind of obscures things, but I didn't want to lose travel on the back of my table. But I got a hole right here, and I'm going to utilize that, and I don't have any idea what that hole is for. It might be for a depth stop, but that's why I turned this rod. It's going to go through this hole. Like that. I got to build a sleeve to go over the top of it because I can't put a nut on it right there. I'll put a sleeve on it and then a nut. And on the other end, I'm going to utilize this slot, which was my table stop. It was right here. I had to modify it because of my DRO. It goes right there, and it runs into that stop right there. Well, instead of using this, I'm going to build a block like that. Those 2 holes will mount right there. And this little piece here will go underneath the edge of that, just to support it. And then I'm going to mill a slot in this. I'm thinking 3/8 by 3/8. And I'm going to make a storyboard to go in there. I don't have any stock right now. I need to get some 3/8 by 3/8 stock. And it'll be 3/16 deep, so it'll be halfway down into this. And I'm just going to lay it in there, and I'll put a ratchet on here. And what I'm going to do is put that 3/8 by 3/8 in my mill one time, and mill slots going across. Lay that piece of 3/8 in there, and then that little ratchet will catch in the notches that I milled. And I'll just have to lift it up and go to the next, let it fall down into the next slot. So, you know, you can't make them a 1/8 inch apart, but I won't need to do that. But I should be able to make them as close as a 1/4 inch apart, somewhere in there. Use a small enough end mill. But that's the plan. Just going to have a little slot here to lay the storyboard in. And that'll be right there. I'm repeating myself. Anyway, next thing to do is mill this slot in the top. Okay, right now we're going to make these 2 cuts right here, these recesses. I've already faced the end of that stock, so I'm at 0 right there, and I need to go 1/4 inch further. I don't know if I left enough room there. I need to move it a 1/2 inch plus a 1/4. That's 3/4 inch. I like it. The next thing we got to do is drill those 2 holes in here and make that T-nut in there. And that T-nut's kind of small in particular. That's something called Anchorlube here. See how this works. Seems to work good. One thing I like about it is it stays with the bit longer than oil does. Okay, I put a very light scribe line right there and ran it back and forth. And that scribe line stays parallel to this rod. So that's a good thing. I had to bend it down just a little bit. Now I want to scribe a line on the bottom of this. And I don't want that to move, so I'm going to take a pair of vice grips before I scribe it there, and that way it won't move on me. Okay, now I'm going to mill that slot up against the scribe line I made and inset this piece, and I'll probably bolt it together. I could weld it, or I'll probably bolt it. Okay, right there I just took the line. And I want that about 1/8 inch deep. That's good. I just cut that extra metal off there. It was about that long. Well, turned out 1/4 20 carriage bolts work pretty good in there, so we're going to use them. All right. Okay, here's my 3/8 hot rolled steel. Sits in there just like that. I'll mill notches in it, but I got to have a little ratchet right here. So that's the next thing we got to do is build a little ratchet. A little paw that goes into grooves. Okay, I got some 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch square stock in here. This is going to be our ratchet paw. Oh. Okay, the reason I did that is because this distance here is exactly a ½ inch and I wanted some clearance there. So when I tighten the bolt, it doesn't stop my ratchet paw from moving. I'm going to blunt the end of that just a little bit. I like it. Okay, I like the way this is working. This is maintaining contact with the rail at all times. The only thing I think may be a problem is this is not sitting in there level. And I flipped it over and it's the same thing. So this is warped here. I may have to straighten that a little bit. I guess I could put a piece of tape underneath one end of it. I'm not too worried about it. That won't create too much inaccuracy. And now we got to mount this right there. It's like that. I want this mostly vertical, slightly tipped back. That way it'll pull into the notch, but have more surface area to stop on. So we got to drill this hole. Got a shoulder bolt there. Like that's perfect. I think I'll take that off and drill it in the mill so I'm perfectly square. Carriage bolts worked out great. This Anchorlube is good stuff on taps. Although this tap is a piece of junk. No name tap. Wow, that 1/4 inch. That's 1/4 inch. Wow. Let's drill that out and tap it for 1/4 inch. All right, I think we're ready for a test. Okay, right there is one extreme end of my travel. It's at the end of the bar right there. And if we go to the other extreme, it's on the other end of the vise, which I could move my vise around if I needed travel on one side or the other. But that's plenty adequate. My goal was to just make it a little bit bigger than the vise. So, let's make a part. Let's make this part right here. Those 3 holes and that milled feature in the top. Unfortunately, my zero is on the left side instead of on the right side, so we're going to have to be looking at it like this. So, that's the actual 3½ inches, or 3 inches, whatever it is. Yeah, 3 inches. That's the actual size of the part. So we're going to keep it kind of centered in the vise, maybe right there. So we're going to call that 0. Okay, the slot can be no deeper than 3/16. Probably about an 1/8 inch would be adequate. Actually, let's go 100 thousandths. I think that'll be deep enough. Okay, now we want to go this dimension right here. Right there. Now we're going to go from 850 to 1.5. We're going to go ahead and put this feature in there. Okay, there's 1.5. There's our story stick. I'm going to knock the burrs off of that and we'll give it a try. Okay, I made a mistake. I'm way out here and that puts me the end mill way outside the vise there. So we're going to redo that. What I should have done is positioned the end mill about where I wanted it in the vise. We're going to flip this over and use the other side. And then mark this right there. And that will be where the end mill will need to cut. Now that mark is hard to see on the camera and it's not really critical. It's about right there. That's my 0 point. Okay, I won't bore you with the rest. I think the next one's 1.5. I'll do the rest of them off camera. Okay, let's give this a try. Now if I did everything right, that is 0. It's a little bit spongy. Why is it spongy? What I'm looking at here is repeatability on my DRO. That top number, I reset to 0. There's 1/1000th off. 2/1000ths. 1,000. 2, almost. I got to do better. I'm not worried about 1,000ths, but when I see 2,000ths up there or more than 1,000ths, that kind of bothers me. What is moving here? Part of it is this bar being pushed down and seating on that. It's a little gap here and none here, so I'm thinking if I twist this, Maybe. It doesn't feel like it moved though. Well, now I'm getting a little better, but something else, something's moving there. I wonder if I need to just put a small shim underneath that. Don't know why it's not quite perfectly seated. I didn't really think that that would be an issue. Okay, that did it. I'm within 2/10,000ths, which is plenty close. So how do I fix that? Okay, that's dry and it seemed to do the trick, but it's just occurred to me what I need to do is put a flat tip set screw exactly under this point right here. So that, because if it's right directly under the pressure of this paw right here, then it can't warp that to create any variation. Okay, I'm gonna take this off and put that set screw in there like I was talking about. Easy enough to do, might as well get it right. Okay, this was about the right level, so I don't want that sticking up much, just barely. See how that does. Still a little variance, don't know why. Let's see if, well, I think that's good enough. It's within 1/1000th usually. So let's make the new stick. Okay, that's about where I want that in my mill, in the mill vise. So I got it positioned where I want it. Come down here, mark where that dog is. Position the end mill on the mark approximately. It's not critical. Touch off. Go 1/8 inch further. 100,000. Reset the DRO. Cut my groove. And 850. Okay, I got the stock in the mill. That's where I need to set my vise stop. Okay, that's a 3/8 end mill. If I drop that down like that and then move to the stop, hit 0, raise it up, clamp the stock, and go 3/16 further, which is 1/875. Yep, it's right on 0 there. Hit 0 again, that's my 0 point. Now I can run my stop up to the work. Probably more accurate to lock it to the table and then move this. That's my stop. Now everything's calibrated. There we go. Remove my parallel. Now I can drill through that and it'll work perfect. Let's put a drill in and give it a try. Okay, I got a learning process going on here. I'm sitting on the stop on my story stick and I should be on the corner of that. And I'm not, which is blowing my mind. I compensated the wrong way. Okay, I want to go 0.1562. There it is right there. Now, set my vise stop to the stock. And when I go back to the stop, I should be on the center of the edge of that, which I am. Okay, now, once again, set it 0. Let's do it to it. Lift the dog up. Go to the next stop. And start drilling. A little oil on there. Skip the next stop and go to the third one. Remember the next stop was the milled hole, or the milled slot. I could probably increase my downfeed speed. Let's try increasing the down speed 1 notch. That's considerably faster. Okay, let's give this a try here. See how accurate we are. Heck yeah. I'd say that's a success. Perfect. I like it. Anyway, that about wraps it up for today. I'm pleased with the results of that. I was a little disappointed that I wasn't, I'm within thousandths, which is probably close enough for most things. I was hoping for a little bit closer, but that's pretty good. There's a lot of linkage there to flex, and I'm pleased. Anyway, be sure and subscribe and ring that bell, and thanks for joining me. Have a good one.